You know that 3 p.m. feeling, your eyelids are doing that weird heavy thing, and you reach for that cold metallic can, the one that promises wings and relentless energy, or whatever the marketing team has dreamed up that year. I've been there. In fact, I used to be that guy who had a mini fridge under my desk, specifically for these. I thought I was hacking my biology. Turns out I was just running my brain's battery into the ground faster. Here's the thing nobody tells you: energy drinks don't give you energy, they borrow it from your future self at 30% interest. And today, we're going to talk about why your energy drink habit might be the reason you can't focus, why the crash isn't just part of the deal, and most importantly, how to actually use caffeine strategically so it works for you instead of against you. This isn't another caffeine is bad, drink water instead video. I'm going to show you the neuroscience of why your current approach backfires and give you a framework I've developed after years of getting this wrong, so you can get the benefits without becoming dependent on a can to function. And stick around until the end because I'm going to share something I call the caffeine arc technique that completely changed how I work. It's not what you think. Okay, so let's start. Let's start with what you're actually experiencing. You drink energy like a shark, like Pepsi, something like that, okay? And you feel that surge maybe 20 minutes later, maybe immediately, if it's one of those fast acting ones, okay? You feel sharp, alert, like you could finally tackle that project you've been avoiding. And then, about 90 minutes to 2 hours later, you feel worse than before. The focus is gone. You're irritable. Maybe you get a headache. Your hands might be a little shaky. So, what you do? You grab another one, or you power through until you can. But here's what I want you to understand: the crash isn't a side effect, it's the main effect. Let me explain. And this is where we need to get a little into the biology, but I keep it simple. Your brain has this chemical called adenosine. Think of adenosine as your brain's body tiredness tracker. It builds throughout the day as you use energy. When adenosine hits certain receptors in your brain, you feel sleepy. It's actually a protective mechanism. Your brain saying, hey, we've used up our resources, time to rest and rebuild. Caffeine is shaped almost exactly like adenosine. So when you drink an energy drink, caffeine molecules park in those receptors, blocking the real adenosine. Your brain can't see how tired you actually are, but the adenosine is still being produced. It's just floating around, enabled to dock. It's like having a parking lot full of cars with nowhere to go. The moment the caffeine wears off, all those cars crash to find spots at once. That's your crash. Now, here's where energy drinks specifically make this worse than, say, a cup of coffee. First, the sugar bomb. Most energy drinks have 20 to 50 grams of sugar. That's 6 to 12 teaspoons. When you hit your system with that much sugar, you get a dopamine spike. The pleasure, the reward, the energy. But then insulin surges to handle the sugar, often overshooting and dropping your blood sugar lower than where you started. So now you have a caffeine wearing off and the blood sugar crashing. It's a double problem, okay? Secondly, the caffeine content is absurd. Standard cup of coffee has about 95 milligrams of caffeine. Many energy drinks have 200 to 300 milligrams, and some have more. Your brain adapts to this flood by creating more adenosine receptors, which means you need more caffeine next time to get the same effect. It's a classic tolerance buildup. Okay. The other stimulants, okay, like taurine, like guarana, B vitamins in massive doses, and sometimes L-theanine, okay, these are supplements, okay, that give you energy, okay. Sometimes they are not necessarily bad on their own, but combined with high dose of caffeine and sugar, you're essentially stress testing your nervous system every time you crack a can, okay. And I remember this specifically, okay. I was working on a project on a vibe coded app, okay, and I had two energy drinks by noon, okay. It was 2 p.m. I was shaking slightly, heart racing, but I couldn't actually think. Like I was staring at my screen, physically wired, but mentally focused. That I can't I look at the screen, but I can't just focus on what I'm seeing, on the prompts I'm writing. Okay, I drank a third one because I had to finish. I had to finish that task I had. Okay, but by 4 p.m., I was in the bathroom with my heart pounding and genuinely wondering if I was having a panic attack. But I wasn't. I was just so overstimulated that my body was in a fight or flight mode while my brain had checked out. That's the paradox. The tool you're using to focus is actually inducing a stress state that makes deep focus impossible. So think about your own experience. Have you ever had that moment when you're so caffeinated that you can't sit still, but you also can't concentrate on one thing? You're checking an email and then going to Slack and then going to your EDU to write some prompts and then doom scrolling on the side between the prompts, okay? Or maybe you have noticed that you need an energy drink just to feel normal, okay? The first one doesn't even give you a boost anymore, okay? Because you have you have tolerance right now, okay? That's not a personality trait, don't worry, okay? It's a lot of chemistry and it's reversible, okay? It's fixable, okay? And that's what we're going to do in this video. But before we get to solutions, we need to understand one more critical piece. Why this specifically destroys your ability to do deep work, okay? There is a researcher named Dr. Andrew Huberman. I'm sure you heard about it in his podcast. He talks about something called the focus continuum. On one end, you have diffuse thinking, okay? It's meaning like daydreaming, brainstorming, a creative wandering, okay? On the other, you have laser focus. It's like deep work, flow states, complex problem solving, okay? Energy drinks don't just fail to help you reach laser focus, they actively push you towards the middle of that continuum, where you're neither relaxed enough to be creative nor focused enough to be productive. You're just agitated in between states. And here's the mechanism. Caffeine increases cortisol and adrenaline. That's actually part of why it feels good, okay? Mild stress can be motivating, but energy drinks push this into overdrive with their caffeine content plus this sugar spike. When your cortisol is elevated, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for executive functions like decision making and sustained attention, it actually becomes less active. Your amygdala, the threat detection center of your brain, it becomes more active. So you're sitting at your desk, but your brain thinks you're being chased by a tiger. It wants you to scan for threats, not write a prompt, okay? That's why you feel restless. That's why you can settle into deep work. But wait, there's another layer that's specific to modern energy drink use. The dopamine problem. Energy drinks trigger dopamine release. That's the motivation and reward chemical, okay? But they trigger it without you doing anything to earn it. Normally, dopamine is supposed to reward effort and accomplishment. It's the keep going signal of your brain when you're making progress. When you get dopamine from a can, your brain starts to associate feeling motivated with consuming this product rather than making progress on my work. Over time, this actually reduces your intrinsic motivation. You become less capable of self starting without the external chemical prompt. I realized this when I went on a camping trip for a week. No energy drinks, just coffee in the morning. The first 2 days, I felt sluggish and irritable. By day 4, something shifted. I woke up clear headed. I could focus on reading for hours, something I hadn't been able to do in months. I didn't feel that constant background anxiety, okay? When I got back, I had one energy drink out of habit, and I immediately felt that familiar jittery, scattered sensation, okay? And it was like my body was saying, oh, this feeling, I remember it, and I don't like it. That was my wake up call. I had normalized a state of low grade panic. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but I need this to function. I have deadlines, I have responsibilities, I can't just quit and feel tired for a week. I get it, okay? And I'm not saying you need to quit caffeine entirely. Caffeine is actually a powerful tool when used correctly. The problem isn't in the molecule, it's the delivery system and the pattern of use. Energy drinks are designed to create dependence. The high caffeine content builds tolerance quickly. The sugar creates a dopamine reward loop. The crash creates the need for another one. It's not accidental, it's a business model. Let me give you one more piece of the puzzle, and this is something I rarely see discussed. It's the caffeine half-life and your sleep correlation. Caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours. That means if you drink a 200 milligram energy drink at 3 p.m., at 9 p.m. you still have 100 milligram in your system. At midnight you still have 50 milligram. Even if you can fall asleep with caffeine in your system, and many people develop enough tolerance to do so, your sleep quality suffers. You get less deep sleep, less REM sleep, okay? REM sleep is a part where your brain like saves the information and develops more ideas and more patterns and strengthens the neurons that you are working on, and it weakens the neurons of the things that you are no longer doing, like the trashy things, okay? You wake up groggy, which makes you reach for another energy drink. It's a perfect trap, a vicious cycle. And about poor sleep, that's the number one predictor of poor focus, poor emotional regulation, and poor cognitive performance. So by using energy drinks to push through tiredness, you're ensuring you'll be tired tomorrow, which ensures you need another energy drink. So we've covered the problem. Let's talk about how to actually use caffeine to enhance instead of destroying your focus. Okay, this is where I'm going to give you the framework I wish I had years ago. So I call it the strategic caffeine protocol, and it has three pillars: timing, dose, and context. Okay, the most important rule. Okay, the pillar one, timing. Okay, no caffeine for the first 90 minutes after waking. And I know that sounds like torture if you're used to rolling over and grabbing an energy drink, but here's why this matters. When you wake up, your body naturally produces cortisol to help you become alert. This is your natural wake up system. If you add caffeine immediately, you're overriding this natural process. Your body starts to depend on the external caffeine and produces less natural cortisol. By waiting 90 minutes, you let your natural system do its job, okay? You reinforce your body's ability to wake itself up. Then, when you do have caffeine, it works with your biology instead of replacing it, okay? And the second timing rule, you stop caffeine 8 to 10 hours before bed. So this seems obvious, but most people don't calculate backwards. If you go to bed at 11 p.m., your last caffeine should be at 1 p.m., not at 4 p.m. Not a just small one at dinner, okay? You have to retain yourself, okay? And by doing that, okay, I started setting a caffeine curfew, okay? Like an alarm on my phone, okay? 1 p.m. every day. When it goes off, I switch to decaf or a herbal tea, okay? These are allowed. The improvement in my sleep quality within 2 weeks was so dramatic. I started waking up actually rested, which meant I didn't need caffeine as desperately in the morning, okay? The second pillar is the dose, okay? Here's the counterintuitive truth. More caffeine is not more focus, okay? Research shows that the optimal dose for cognitive enhancement is actually quite low, about 100 to 200 milligrams for most people. That's one cup of coffee, not three. Above that threshold, you get more side effects and anxiety, zitterness, crash without more benefit, okay? And energy drinks, they often contain 200 to 300 milligrams, which push more people into the diminishing returns zone. My recommendation is to find your minimum effective dose. For me, it's about 100 milligram in the morning, and if I need a boost in the early afternoon, another 50 to 100 milligram. That's it. 2 cups of coffee worth of total spread across the day. If you're currently drinking multiple energy drinks, so don't go to cold turkey. That's miserable and unnecessary. Okay? Switch to coffee or tea where you can control the dose, okay? Cut your energy drink consumption in half for a week, then half again, okay? It's a step-by-step process, okay? We have the third pillar, it's the context, okay? This is the pillar Lombardi talks about. Caffeine should be paired with specific types of work, okay? Not used as a general state of being, okay? You should you should you should include it, okay, when you have physical tasks, okay? You have cognitive tasks like you are doing in vibe coding, like prompting and ideating and creating, engineering the prompts and coming up with ideas for the platform or the project or the app you are creating, okay? And actually it's bad for like learning new information, okay? and task requiring fine motor control, okay? Anything where an anxiety will be detrimental, okay? Those are the tasks you don't want to take caffeine with, okay? So if I have a day when I need to write a detailed report, okay? Like a detailed report, like something that I need to do, okay? Something requiring deep focus and senses of information. I keep caffeine low, okay? Maybe just my morning coffee. If I have a day of back-to-back meetings or something like that, I might have a bit more because the social stimulation pairs well with caffeine, okay? The key is to be intentional. Don't just consume caffeine because it's a habit, okay? Consume it because you have a specific use case where it will help, okay? Now, the technique I promised you, this is something I've developed through trial and error, and I haven't seen it taught anywhere else, okay? I call it the caffeine arc, okay? Most people use caffeine like a flat line. They maintain a high level all day. This creates tolerance, disrupts sleep, and leads to the crashes we're trying to avoid. So instead, I use caffeine to create a specific art that matches my work needs, okay? Okay, so let me give you some concrete steps to implement this, starting tomorrow. If you're actually drinking energy drinks daily, so the first week, I want you to switch to coffee or tea, okay? Same caffeine amount, but no sugar crash. No extra stimulants. You already feel better, okay? Second week, push your first caffeine 30 minutes later than usual. Replace with water or herbal tea, okay? The third week is to push another 30 minutes. Start tracking your sleep quality, okay? And you'll see the improvement, okay? For the fourth week, we should be at 90 minutes post waking. Now implement the caffeine curfew we talked about, okay? For the afternoon slump specifically, okay? This is for the afternoon slump, okay? Instead of an energy drink, try like a nappuccino, okay? A small coffee and a 20-minute nap directly, okay? The caffeine hits as you wake up. You'll feel clearer than any energy drink ever made you, okay? I encourage you also to do some movement, okay? 5 minutes of brisk walking or stairs more effective than caffeine tolerance. I recommend work on your prompt standing, okay? And like doing some movements in between the prompts. You also have cold shower, okay? You splash your face or your whole body, like okay, you start with the face and then the whole body, okay? It activates the dive reflex, okay, which increases your alertness, okay? We also have breath work, 30 seconds of rapid nasal breathing, then 2 minutes slow oxygenates without stimulants. And I want to leave you with this. The goal isn't to be a purist. It's not an anti-caffeine. Okay? It's not an anti-caffeine video. I still love coffee. I still use caffeine strategically when I need to perform, but I refuse to be dependent on a chemical to function at baseline. I refuse to accept that feeling anxious and scattered is just how I am. It's not. It's how I was making myself through my habits. The energy drink industry has sold us a story that we need their product to keep up with modern life, that without it, we'll fall behind. But the truth is, the product is what's keeping us from having the sustainable energy and focus that would actually let us thrive. You don't need wings, you need sleep. You don't need to be relentless, you need to be strategic. Try the caffeine arc for 2 weeks, just 2 weeks, okay? Track your focus, your sleep, your anxiety levels. I think you'll be shocked of how much better you'll feel and how much you'll actually get done. If this resonated with you, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm to share it with the other who might be caught in the energy drink trap, okay? And let me know in the comments what's your current caffeine habit and are you ready to try the 90-minute rule, okay? So I'm gonna read all the comments, okay? As much as I can, okay? And I'll be responding. And I hope you execute on what you have said, on what we have said in this video. And take care. Goodbye.